If you're a frequent listener of our podcast, then you'll know that I've been in the music industry for a long time. In fact, my first job in the music industry was in 2013, which was for a music management company that worked with a huge range of artists, one of which was Jessie J, taking her from the Brit School of Performing Arts all the way to the pop star that she became. I then worked in music for a little longer before going into corporate marketing. Here I learned so much. I learned how marketing and branding really works, including influencer marketing, paid ads, just branding as a whole was completely different to the music industry. And I'd say that is where I learned most of my marketing skills. I then returned to the music industry a few years later to work for an established music marketing company. And it's here that I realized that all these major labels were paying for music marketing, but there is so much more you could do. Now that I had all of this knowledge from the corporate sector who were investing huge amounts in R&D and just researching the latest trends in order to be top of their game and get as many customers as they can. But the music industry just seemed a little bit more dated. And that's when I realized that you could take these modern techniques and apply it to the music industry. And that's essentially how Burstamo was formed. So after spending 7 years in music marketing, here's 8 things that I've learned. The first one is that the music industry is always a few steps behind. Because there isn't a huge amount of money in the music industry, they're not driven to be able to find the best techniques in order to promote artists. So there are things going on in the corporate sector where they are finding new techniques, new places to get products, which the music industry isn't taking advantage of. In fact, only in the last few years has the music industry adopted influencer marketing as a viable option for promoting an artist. Whereas it's been the last 7 years when corporates and small startups have been using influencer marketing to launch their products. So until techniques become established, the music industry doesn't tend to adopt it until it kind of slaps them in the face and tells them that you need to be using these techniques. So something that could be a technique which the music industry isn't using is YouTube channels. Artists are getting more and more of a personality and putting their personality across. And we're seeing a few artists attempt YouTube videos and growing their channel. And it is working incredibly effectively for those artists that are using it and uploading videos every single week. But unfortunately, the music industry still doesn't see that content marketing as being valuable. It just still continues to want to push into music blogs or on the radio. And the truth is, readership on music blogs is completely down. You guys are the target audience. You are an artist or musician, so you should be the target audience for music blogs. Comment below, when was the last time you can remember reading a music blog? Was it a couple of days ago, last week, month, years ago? Comment below and let me know. The second thing I learned is that keep it professional. The best artists that went on to be huge didn't go partying every single night. They waited till they're established, and some of them are still waiting until after their career to go partying. Yes, the music industry has a reputation for the best parties. It's literally sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But when you get close to these artists, you realize that it's not really them doing the partying. They might instigate the party, but they go home and they work on their craft and figure out how they can be better because they know they have this opportunity now and they need to capitalize on it. In fact, one example I can think of was before the 1975 were huge, back in around 2014, we met them backstage and they invited us side stage to watch them perform. And we thought, this is great, we're gonna go party with the 1975. And afterwards, they got on their bus and they went home. We even asked them where they were going and they just literally went home. And there were other artists there as well who did exactly the same thing. We thought the parties were going to be wild and they just went home because they knew they needed as much sleep as possible for the next day to focus their energy on going into the studio or the next performance that they knew they had to nail. So that example tells you that you need to keep it professional and no one's going to think you're uncool for not partying. You need to keep things professional and treat it like your 9 to 5 job. This is your career. You want to make it a reality. And people listening to your music on the radio and Spotify playlists aren't going to love your music because they know that you party. They're going to listen to your music and think, do I like this music and do I want to hear more? So that's what you should be doing. If you play a small show, don't go and try and party with the 20 people that showed up, go out drinking. You need to keep it professional. The only thing you should be doing is afterwards, don't disappear, go and mingle with the fans that made the effort to come down. But get yourself home and for the next day, concentrate on the next step in your career. The third thing I learned is it takes years to break an artist. I've spoken to so many labels and artist managers who have broken some of the biggest artists in the world, and their story started literally 5 years before they broke. Yes, there are exceptions like Billie Eilish who managed to break within a year, but if you look at the majority of artists that are established, they've been doing things for 5 years, playing show after show, release after release, and just building their fan base day after day until they have this fan base that is big enough to break them and they do something or release a track which gets people talking. And that's how you break as an artist. You don't just have a track go viral. Most artists that get a track to go viral on their first release, they don't make it. They've just become a one-hit wonder or a bit of a joke artist. But the artists who have that core fan base are the ones who make it long term because they know how to sustainably build every single day. The fourth thing is artists need to be more raw on social media. I think artists being polished and just the finished product is something that's come from the old music industry, like the 70s and 80s, where there wasn't social media. And if you take that and put it on social media today, people would just skip past all of your content. And we've been saying this for a long time in our content and also on our YouTube channel. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed already, we do upload 3 times a week. So if you like music marketing videos, this might be the channel for you. So hit subscribe. And all of a sudden, Lewis Capaldi broke. Lewis Capaldi started putting up these silly videos on Instagram and people just talked about him. And yeah, we mention him a lot, but the reason is because it works and there will be more artists that break just like him through the same route. So people like seeing that raw content. They're not put off by an artist for showing things how it really is. You don't have to just be this idol for everybody. And what happens is you can't just sit back and let your marketing department at the label or your management just handle your social media, because all they'll end up doing is taking some pretty pictures, putting it on your feed. When there's a release coming, they'll make an out now graphic for you and just some pretty pictures and some swipe ups for your Instagram stories. And that's not enough. People will just skip past that pretty quickly. So if you want to break as an artist and engage your audience, it needs to be raw. It needs to be what people are seeing on their social media anyway. So if people are flicking through all their friends' stories and it's just their friends talking to camera or just weird pictures of their cat, and then suddenly a poster comes up or a promo video, people know that it's an advert and just skip past it as if it was just a sponsored post on Instagram. So keeping it raw is how artists are going to break now, not by being polished. The fifth thing is, everyone thinks that breaking as an artist is having a dad who knows someone at a label who can get you signed, or you just need strong contacts in order to get exposure. And that's not true at all. You don't need connections to break as an artist. If you go onto Spotify's New Music Friday right now, you'll find that around 20% of the artists are signed to major labels. The rest are self-released or with smaller labels. So to do this, you simply click the artist profile and then go to their latest release. And at the bottom of the EP or the album, it will tell you the label that released that particular album or EP. And that will be a really good exercise to help you understand that you can do anything without the need for connections. If you just keep building a following and adding value to your audience, when you have that fan base, when you have that buzz, the right people and the right connections will come to you to help further your career. The right connections is just a part of it. It is not the thing that makes you break as an artist. It is just something that happens along the way of breaking. So every story of an artist breaking does have an influential person in it. But that influential person will come to you as well if you're able to build enough buzz on social media or make good enough music where you attract a following and a listenership. The people will find you. Point number 6 is, in the music industry, everyone tries to be cool. Everyone who works in the music industry is trying to be cool and wants to tell everyone that they work in the music industry without actually adding any value to the industry. And this kind of got me down a little bit because it made me think, well, the industry is just full of image conscious people. Until you start to get a bit higher up into senior management and you realize that the true influential people in music are kind of geeky and nerdy, and they love what they do, and they love looking at stats and analyzing data and reading books on the latest techniques of marketing, or lawyers who know everything about copyright law and collecting royalties. And I discovered this when we started going to music conferences, and the people who showed up to the more boring conferences, the conferences which were about the future of technology of the music industry, were all the high-level people at the labels. Those influential people showed up because they wanted to learn. No, it wasn't a cool event. There wasn't a huge amount of drinking and photographs being taken or big artists there, but those who are influencing those big artists and breaking their career, those guys were there. And that is something, if you want to work in the music industry, you need to know it's not about being cool, it's about adding value to the music industry. What skills are you going to bring? So if you're applying for a job somewhere in music, don't just say, I love music, I go to all of the festivals, because that's not adding value. Everybody loves music, everybody loves going to festivals. But what makes you different is what you can bring to that company. What skills have you researched? And you don't have to go to university to get that. You can watch YouTube videos or read books, and don't focus on music industry advice. I know I'm a music industry advice channel, but look in other industries for that advice. Look in other places, other topics. If you want to research marketing, as I said at the start of this video, all of my marketing knowledge came from outside the music industry, and that's where yours should too. And I want to apply this tip to artists as well. If you're trying to find a label, if you're trying to find a manager, then you can judge people on how cool they are. How image conscious is that person? Is their Instagram bio filled with brags, or their Instagram's just filled with braggy stuff about the music industry? Or are they just following a load of marketing tips accounts or music industry accounts, and they want to learn? And their social media is very telling because it tells you someone's values and what they really want out of life. And if they just want to tell people, I work in the music industry, it's probably not the person who's going to take your career forward. The 7th point is a mistake I see artists making a lot, which is when you first start, you're a little bit embarrassed about how small you are as an artist, and you don't really want new potential fans to be put off because you've only got 10 followers on Instagram. And what ends up happening is you try to look like a big established artist. You go to see what those big artists are doing on their social media and you copy it. And that will make you look more established, and you start to cut corners to get followers by doing things like following and unfollowing. And what ends up happening is you miss out on all of the people who love discovering emerging artists. So don't go booking a European tour when you haven't even been able to dominate your local area. Make sure you can sell out tickets in your local area first, and then when you can do that, you can start to spread out. Because if you're booking a European tour and then pushing it out there to new people, people aren't going to follow you because they saw a poster that you've got a European tour. They're not going to become a fan of your music because of that. They're going to become a fan of your music for you and your music, not how credible you are as an artist. There are so many people out there who absolutely love discovering new music, no matter who the artist is. And those are the people who are going to drive your music and talk about it. If you look established already, people won't talk about you because they think you're established and there's not really that much there to talk about. So with every follower you get, everyone who comes to your show, see that as one more fan who is going to go and talk about your music, not just a number. Yes, you can see artists that have thousands and thousands of followers and you want that, but it does come with time. And remember, the growth is exponential. It starts quite gradual and gets faster and faster and faster. And that's what you want for your music. And that leads me on to my final point, point number 8, which is something that every artist needs to know. And that's, in the music industry, the numbers are inflated. Since 2009, you've been able to buy fake YouTube views, Facebook likes, Instagram followers. At one point, you could even buy fake Facebook friends for some reason. And now you can buy fake Spotify streams. And the result of that is a lot of artists feeling very inadequate because they look at other artists their size and look at how many streams they've got or Instagram followers and feel like they're doing something wrong. But it is so remarkable how much fakery goes on in the music industry just because people are afraid of point number 7. They don't want to appear like they've got 10 followers or only 100 views on their music video on YouTube. So they fake their numbers, and then other artists think I should have that number, and then they cut corners and think that by getting 10,000 views on YouTube, something is going to happen. The algorithm's going to be fooled and push it out. But what really happens is it just kind of shadow bans your video and it doesn't come up in any suggested videos along the side of other videos. It doesn't go on the home page and you will never get on the trending page. So you may as well do things completely organically and don't worry about the numbers. Worry about the fans that are DMing you. How many comments do you get on your Instagram post? That's what you should be focusing on, not those numbers. We know plenty artists who have millions of streams and not a single person will show up to their show. So if you're an emerging artist, don't be tempted into cutting corners and getting fake numbers because you'll end up cutting your own career short. That was my final point. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, do give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more music marketing videos like this, subscribe and we'll see you in the next video.